So the topic for today is eat the emotion but don't trust the evidence, ? Because it's going about organic food claims and consumers' expectations in Europe. So I will take you to Europe and to all the considerations we have regarding organic food quality, and of course you will see after all that we consider organic something different than you are doing that. So, but first of all, let's start where Witzenhausen is. Witzenhausen, translation would be Joketown. Witzenhausen is just in the middle of Germany. And you can see here, for instance, there is Frankfurt, there is Berlin, on top is Hamburg. So Witzenhausen is just between north and south in the middle and east and west in the middle. In former times, near Witzenhausen there was the border to so-called East Germany. And Witzenhausen looks like this. So we have a place really familiar to your place here. We have also an old stone building, part of the former agricultural colonial school, and we do have the new parts of our university there. Here you have a very nice picture from the surrounding and our scientific greenhouses, and also I saw some students today at the lawn, and also our students are going out to do so. Unfortunately, we do not have this very nice sea around, but we do have a river there. So that is the River Werra, and our students cannot swim as you can do during your special celebrations because the river is very shallow. But you can, of course, do some canoeing on this river, and the students are doing that. So also you have a very nice view on the old part of the city. On the other part is then the new building. So we are separated into two parts of the our faculty. By the way, the Kassel University is a university having 19,000 students. Fortunately, the Faculty of Organic Agricultural Sciences is located a little bit north of Kassel, and we have around 700 students. Most of them are bachelor students, but we do have also 3 master programs. So one master program is in German about organic agriculture. Then we do have another master program in English about organic agriculture, and it is part of a joint curriculum together with the University of Göttingen. The University of Göttingen is an old traditional university, and we are offering courses together with them. So organic agricultural sciences is part of the so-called sustainable agriculture sciences or sustainable agriculture course. And of course, just Molly mentioned it, I'm the head of the master course for organic food business and consumer science, and of course it's under the umbrella of organic or sustainable agriculture. So people looking at the master course, they have dollar signs in their eyes because they think, oh, business, organic, or in general business, food business, but of course it's linked to organic and sustainability. Beside our research greenhouse, we do have also a greenhouse dealing with the topic of agricultural commodities in the tropics and subtropics. You can see here coffee. And we do have in addition a 320 hectare farm for research and education, and they should also make some money coming out of this research farm. So we do have also the question you have, how to use a farm for research and education and at the same time making money with it. And here you can see some pictures. We are not doing some trials with vegetables or cash crop, but also animal husbandry. As you can see, here is our barn for the milking cows. Unfortunately, we do not have a dairy at the farm, but it's probably coming. And here we have this nice piglets out there, even in wintertime. And now I'm coming to the topic of my department. My department is called Department for Organic Food Quality and Food Culture. And probably you know that food quality is more a research part or an educational part based on so-called natural science or basic science, and culture is more in the topic of social sciences. So I'm linking in my department both sciences together, and here you see, for instance, an apple, and linked to that is the so-called nutrition table. So normally you are describing the value of an apple regarding the different nutrients within the apple. And you can do that, of course, with an instrument like this. That is our HPLC in our lab. We are doing there, for instance, the so-called secondary plant compounds, which are very important for the immune system of your own body, but also for the immune system in the plants. And then we are doing some sensory analysis also, because it's very important that organic food coming out has special attraction to the consumer's senses. So it tastes well, for instance. And in addition to that, we are looking for so-called additional methods to determine food quality. So this is, for instance, a picture so-called of the biocrystallization we are doing. In the food culture part, we are, of course, we know that nutrition is caused by so-called basic needs, but on the other hand, you are buying some food because you have different values. So here it's a picture how we cluster the way to evaluate the values of the consumers in respect to food. So we have here the traditional values, here the modern values, and so on. And here is the social structure, let's say. And of course, everybody knows that he or she should eat good apples. That is not a good apple, by the way. But that is the reality. So also here, I think, but also in Germany. And by the way, our German Nutrition Association stated that each family member takes 1 hour and 43 minutes per day for food. And the women are normally taking care more than 1 hour per day just to shop and prepare the food. And in comparison to that, male just having 23 minutes. So that is everything around preparation of food. So food has not such an importance as probably meant to be.
Does that include consumption time?
Yes. So we are also grazing and eating on the run. We know that. What we are doing in the food culture area is also dealing with the topic of biodiversity. So Witzenhausen is an old town famous for its cherry trees. We do have 150,000 cherry trees in Witzenhausen, so we are the capital of cherry production. And we do have, in fact, all those different colors of cherry varieties around Witzenhausen. So we did a survey about the old varieties, and also in addition to that we asked for the traditional knowledge about how to preserve cherries and what to do with cherries and so on. So traditional knowledge was also part of the research. And we built a so-called cherry trail to educate the consumers about the importance of cherries for 100 years ago and nowadays. And beside that, we are doing biodiversity also in other parts of the world. So we have a strong relationship to the Caucasus region, to Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. And one of my PhD students is just looking about traditional cheese making in Armenia and about the local knowledge. Because we built a foundation, and our foundation is giving money, 170,000 euros, to build a dairy there, just to bring the equipment there and teach them how they can do it together with the students. Because in Armenia, normally students are taught just in theoretical areas, so they do not have any practical parts in their education. So, but today our topic is food quality and the expectations about the food quality. So I would like to give you a short overview what's said about organic food quality and consumers' expectations. I will refer to the EU regulations, and then we have conclusions. It will be 3 considerations I am doing. First of all, I would like to give you the sales of the European market for organic food. You can see even during the last years, it increased a lot. So even last year, we had an increase about 10% in Germany, for instance, although we have this economic pressure on the people's pockets. And here you can see a comparison to the United States and Canada. So altogether, Europe will spend 17,901 million euros, and United States 15,582. But these figures doesn't show, I think, just the surface. By the way, Germany is spending the most for in the EU for organic food. But looking at the sales in euros per capita in 2008, that shows different figures. So Denmark is the country where the consumer is spending more for organic food, for instance, in comparison to Germany or Sweden. On average, the EU is spending per head in 2008 25.8 euros. Have you any considerations or an idea how much US is spending per capita for organic food?
Is that per week or per day?
No, in general.
For a year?
For a year.
For a year.
Yes.
25 euros a year.
Yes, because we do not have such a big market, but it's increasing. So, what is about the sales and expenditures in US? I can give you the figure. Last year, or in the year 2008, the increase was plus 16% in your country. And you are spending a lot more than we do in Europe. That was astonishing for me, but these are the last facts and figures coming out from FIBE, from the Swiss Federal Institute, or from the Swiss Institute, taking all the figures worldwide. So it's astonishing that you are ahead of us. Because normally people are thinking, oh, they in Europe are more green than we are. Let's consider.
Is there a difference between Eastern and Western Europe?
Yes.
In those numbers?
Yes, yes, yes.
Are you basing the organic on certified organic
Yes.
or organic production?
No, certified organic. Otherwise, you can't trust what is really organic or not. Although, for my personal opinion, if you are going into so-called developing countries, you must not certify everything that is sold on the normal market. So, but these figures are regarding certified products. So, the question is, how would you define food quality? Quality is defined, and we do have a so-called ISO norm for this. Quality is defined as the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service to bear on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. So, what does it tell us? The question we discussed with the students here was, what are the implied needs from farmer side, from processor side, from trader side, from consumer side? And they all came up with different topics they want to see. I'm a nutritionist and food scientist, and my question is, what do I expect as a nutritionist, for instance, from my food and for the food quality? So just giving you here the food chain normally. So we have the farming system, we do have the processing, and of course, when I'm taking samples from fruits and from processed fruits like wine here, I would look at the nutrient side. And then I would look as a nutritionist about the bioavailability of the different nutrients. And then, of course, it might be interesting for me how it will influence my health or my well-being, because the HWO says it's not only about the health, but it's also about well-being in the social area. So, and I would like now to tell you what the consumers did or think of. And for this, I'm giving you some numbers of a survey done under the EU research project called Quality Low Input Food. This research project was established in 2002, and so it started then some years later, and it was finished last year. If you are going into the internet, you will find more results about this research project. It was the biggest research project ever done for organic food in Europe. 17.5 million, or it's in your country then billion, euros were spent for this research project. And to ask the consumers what their expectations is about organic food, they asked, for instance, or I took the answers from non-organic consumers in the EU. And they say organic food is better in chemical residues, artificial ingredients, impact on environment. Much better. Better it is in naturalness, not mass-produced, quality of animal feed, use of veterinary medicine, animal welfare, and nutrient content, and better also in food safety, taste, made in the own country or even regional, and therefore it has its identity. A little better, they say it's about hygiene, about freshness, about reputation of the seller. It's about distance, the so-called footprint. It's about the quality assurance or quality management. And it is the same, providing fair prices to producers, and about the outer appearance of food, and it's worse regarding shelf life, keeping quality, value for money, range of types available, so the variance of products. We can state it's a wide range of reasons to buy, even asking non-organic buyers. And of course, some of those parameters consumers want to see for their produce, organic produce, is product quality. So something linked to the product itself, like higher vitamin content, safety, and so on. And not so much, or only parts of this, about process quality. And I think they want to buy organic because they feel better. And that is where the emotions come in. So eat the emotions was my topic. And I think that is something sometimes they can't clearly say why they buy organic, but they feel better about buying it. So, and now, these are the two research projects, by the way, Quality Low Input Food, and the other, which is now ongoing, is Core Organic. You can find also something about farmer-consumer partnership that is more linked to that topic. The other is linked to the topic of food quality more directly on the internet. What does the EU regulation tells us? So the EU regulation says organic production means the use of production methods compliant with the rules established in this regulation at all stages of the production, preparation, and distribution. And so it says something about the farming system, it says something about the processing, but it doesn't say anything about nutrients, bioavailability, or health aspects. And that is something people do not consider. So the first consideration, we do have a conflict of interest because the regulation are just dealing with the topic of farming system, processing systems. They do not say anything about the product itself. They are just considering how it is done during the processes. So process quality and the product quality is not mentioned at all. And the consumers, especially in Germany, we are, I think in Europe, the worst. We have more selfish reasons to buy. So we want to have safe products. We want to have healthy products. We want to have products high in nutrients and so on. And at the same time, we are spending less money for getting good food quality. One of our former ministry said, we Germans have the highest technical equipment in the kitchen, the most expensive kitchen, but unfortunately we are preparing the worst quality of food in it. And I think that is true. So therefore, because people are thinking that they are buying good stuff for their own health, they have been very irritated by the following publication done in The Lancet in August last year, because it said the review, there were 2 review papers published, and they said the review failed to show a difference between the 2 sources of food, a result that was not what the organic food movement wanted to hear. And here are these 2 studies. So first of all, they did a comparison study about the organically and conventionally produced foodstuff on their composition. And secondly, they had a comparison study about the health effect of both foodstuffs. And my question is, because it was so irritating and every newspaper was reported in Europe, oh, organic is not better than conventional, the market shares dropped down and so on. And the question was, is that topic new? No, it was not new, because, for instance, we in Germany, but also in Switzerland, in Austria, in France, we had already done some reviewed papers. So this was the German Literature Review from our federal agency. It was done in 2001, because during those days, the first law for organic food came up in Europe. And the question was, is there a methodology available to distinguish between organic carrots and conventional carrots, as an example, when they are bought from the markets? And you can say no. Up to now, there is no way just to distinguish between those 2. And I will explain later why. And then, because that was not the case, then the EU law came in and said, yes, then we will try to deal with the process itself, and we will follow the process. And if this process is according to our regulation, what can be organic or sustainable, we will go for this. So, and therefore, these different, there are lots of literature reviews done in the beginning of 2000. So we have here some data which are not quite clear or they are missing. But in the nutritional quality, of course, we had, for instance, here with the vegetables and fruit, more SPC, means secondary plant compounds. We had less mycotoxins, we had more minerals in cereals and so on. And we divided that in nutritional quality, sensory quality, and processing quality. And that was for plant produce, and this is for animal produce, and you can see here, no difference, or data are missing. Therefore, in those days, the EU decided to go on for research projects. Therefore, we have this big project, Quality Low Input Food. By the way, we couldn't name that organic food, so we had to say Quality Low Input Food, just not to bother some governments, let's say. So my question is then, the research was needed, and we did some research now, and therefore the irritating thing was that although we have now spent 10 years more on research, the question is, there is still no difference. So is it just the emotion we are buying or what we are buying? And I will show you that, of course, some of the results can show a difference. For instance, here higher vitamin and CLA content in organic milk and dairy products, or better omega or higher level of omega-3 fatty acids. We are dealing with the topic of phenolic compounds, so the secondary plant compounds. And by the way, this was our Minister for Consumer Affairs, Nutrition and Agriculture, because she changed it completely. In former times, this was just the Ministry for Agriculture. When she jumped in, she was from the Green Party. She said, no, I will name this Ministry for Consumer Affairs, Food and Agriculture, or Consumer Protection, sometimes it's translated. So, and she was very in favor of going organic with the whole agriculture, but of course she failed. Of course means because the period of being in power, it's normally just 4 years, and then normally there will be a change in our country. So we have some more results that makes organic buyers more convenient or more sure that there might be a difference, but not overall. Now I'm presenting you a very nice plate with different carrots, not because I had a good class together with Suzanne where we did some sensory evaluation with carrots and our students, but because we did those research also on the different compounds. And I would like to take this example to explain why it's so difficult to get the evidence. So the questions are, how is research done properly? What shall we compare? And what are the relevant factors to produce quality? And this is a picture coming from one of my PhD students' paper. And what you can see here are different varieties of carrots. So we do have the blue ones. It's the variety Rothild. We do have the green ones. It's the variety Norbonne. We do have the red ones. That is Rodelica, a very favored carrot variety in our country. And we do have those who are not very narrow together. That is Nérac. And at the same time, we have two different systems compared. The first is just to give you the fully colored dot is the control group, and just the round circles in blue is, for instance, Rothild with a fertilization of 150 kilograms of N per hectare, so organically given. So we do have then a comparison between control and the fertilization. And at the other hand, though, the greens and the violet dots are a comparison between systems. So one comes from the organic system and one comes from the conventional system. And what you can easily see, think that you can differentiate the 4 varieties quite easily. So it's not the system, not the fertilization, it's just the variety you can see. By the way, this is an LCA. Probably the students know that, hopefully. It shows you, or you can see there a combination between, let's say, different parameters, and it brings you more easily to see how they are linked together. So it's a, PCA. So that is the first thing. All varieties can be differentiated. The second is that you easily also can see here with the blue ones, you can differentiate between the control group and the fertilized group. And at the same time, you even can also see between the 2 different systems, organic and conventional. Unfortunately, here in the purple group, it's not so easy. Also, you can see the black dots there that are the means, the average. And statistically, you can do that, but of course, you see here some of the not fully painted dots. There's an overlapping of samples, let's say it. So you can see also a difference between the agricultural systems. If we are doing that for several components or several nutrients in food, then you can have a ranking. So asking which topic is the most influencing topic on food quality, first comes the variety. Second, then the climatic conditions like precipitation or temperature. Thirdly, the location based on soil. And then the farming system, for instance, organic or conventional. So we can be sad now, but we can also go ahead and say there has to be something linked together. And my proposal would be variety and farming systems should be linked together. So organic production should give also guidelines for how to choose the variety. If that not is done, then you can't, then there will always be a vague correlation between the farming system and the nutrients. So the second consideration is then the review of publications show that variety has a greater impact on food quality than agricultural systems. Therefore, variety should be part of the organic agricultural systems as a guideline. Now, what is about processing? This, of course, is a very nice breakfast table. You all would agree. And it seems to be organic. You see the whole wheat rolls, you see muesli, you see the apple juice, freshly made probably, then the cheese, the honey, the milk, and so on. But is that people think of organic, being organic, or what is the truth of organic in shelf, at the shelf? Probably you have seen a lot of organic bars, chocolate bars, as you can see in conventional areas as well. So the question is processing and special regulations for processing, is that part of organic food quality or not? So what does our EU regulation tells us? The EU regulation says organic production is defined as a production method in line with the preference of certain consumers for products produced using natural substances and processes. Natural substances and processes. And it says that the processing method should guarantee the organic integrity and vital qualities of the product maintained through all stages of the production chain. Who knows a method to determine vital quality or integrity? The next is, and that was really funny to read that, although I'm really in favor, my chair is called Organic Food Quality. I'm really in favor for that, but sometimes regulations are awful. So that says processing of organic farm should exclude substances that do not harm human health. Or the processing should do not harm human health. I think it's even for conventional products the fact. That might be misleading regarding the true nature of the product. Or processing should be done with care. So what do we have? A lot of terms which are not defined, or everybody can see something behind that, so has an emotion to that. Care, taking care of the processing, being natural, and so on. But the question is, how are producers doing that? And we do have now really more and more former times conventional companies coming into the market of organic produce. And what they are doing, they are taking care, they are taking their food processing methods to the organic product. So nanotechnology is, for instance, not excluded in the regulations, in the EU regulations. It could be part of the organic processing, but nobody is aware of that. And the processing companies don't want to talk about this. They say, as long as we do not need it, we will not use it. But if there might be sometimes the fact that we have to compete more heavily with the conventional market, probably then we can use it. So natural substances and processes. I brought you 2 examples with me. So first of all, it's a very nice yogurt, organic yogurt, and it says natural, but at the same time it says fat-free, and it says probiotic yogurt. So naturally, milk contains fat, and naturally, milk doesn't contain probiotic topics or probiotic organisms. And this here, all natural chicken, I would expect that from a product, to have really chicken in the product and not something else. So the term of naturalness is often used, even in your country, very often, but the question is what is behind it and how can we determine this naturalness? I would give you an overview of what Suzanne Padel, she's now working at our other partner, at the partner of the Organic Research Center at Farm. And she said we have to go back to the 4 principles of iPhone connected to organic produce. And those 4 principles are health, ecology, fairness, and care. And if these 4 principles are met, then of course we can use the word naturalness, sustainability, system thinkings, and so on. So her proposal was really to emphasize more on the 4 principles of iPhone. So the third consideration is the EU regulation on processing of organic food points out quality terms that are not defined, nor can they be evaluated through different methods. Food additives are limited, but not processing techniques. So coming now to the conclusion, and I will give you afterwards also some ideas what your regulations are telling us. Coming to the conclusion, first of all, consumers expect a plus in quality parameters, mostly linked to the product itself. So they expect something for their own health and their own safety. Secondly, the EU regulation focuses on the process in agriculture and processing. It says nothing about the composition of a food or that nutrients should be better than compared to conventional. And thirdly, what is needed from my point of view, we do need a clarification of the regulation for the consumers. So consumers are not really educated what is in the regulations in the EU. Secondly, we do need a clarification of terms like vital quality, naturalness, and so on, because everybody can think something different behind that. And thirdly, we do have to include varieties as part of the guidelines. So that was my conclusion, and if you want to read a little bit more, we just published in the Journal of Food Technology in the recent issue, we just published Organic Food Claims in Europe. That is a paper from us and with linked research groups. I would like to show you also the definitions in your country. So what does it say here? It says organic is a labeling term that denotes products produced under the authority of the Organic Food Production Act. The principal guidelines for organic production are to use material and practices that enhance the ecological balance of natural systems, that integrate the parts of the farming system into an ecological whole. And what is even more important for me, that is about the USDA National Organic Standard Board, that were the definitions in 1995, is the following sentence. Organic agriculture practices cannot ensure that products are completely free of residues. However, methods are used to minimize pollution from air, soil, and water. And also here in this sentence you find the term integrity. So also you have some terms that are not quite analyzed or, let's say, defined. So I would like to thank you for listening to me, and I'm open for questions. Yes.
Angelika, I have two points I'd like you to follow up more on. One is, I think in the U.S., it's common for people when they're thinking about organic versus other kinds of food, that the focus is not so much, in a sense, on nutrients, but on residues, on toxins. They buy organic grapes because they don't want to get some kind of pesticide or herbicide. And maybe I missed it in the charts you were giving, but I'm interested in the extent to which you sort of were testing for toxins of different sorts, and both in plants but also in animals, where there's bioaccumulation of perhaps. And then the other thing was that I think often when people go shopping, certainly when I go shopping and I'm looking at something organic, I think of like tomatoes, for example, and the role of variety seems really important.
Yes.
In fact, a lot of the food that seems like it's nasty because it's produced in this big monocultural system is in part because there are these varieties that are sort of tasteless, that sort of have long shelf life or can resist, pesticides and herbicides of different sorts. So if you could say more also about the role of variety in your conceptualization.
Yes, that is the most interesting point for me, because each production system has different, or it is proven by scientific paper that each production system has special varieties where the varieties grow better. So, for instance, or even a mixture of varieties grow better. So our partner at Farm Research Center, they are just using mixtures now of grain, because then the overall processing ability of those grain is better compared than in single components. So variety is really a topic, but not only, but also linked, I would say, to regional production. Because nowadays also organic buyers are aiming to have tomatoes just during Christmas time. And they are looking for organic tomatoes, but these organic tomatoes are coming, let's say, from Israel or even from other faraway parts. And unfortunately, you cannot find now, or just seldom, some labeling about CO2 print or the footprint of a product. It's coming now, but it's not, up to now, it's not part. And also the topic of, we just discussed it in our class, the topic of virtual water. So tomatoes being produced in Israel, taking the water from Palestine, or just cutting the water from their region, is not fair. And why should we buy this water just to have tomatoes at winter time? So it's the varieties also, I think, or would make us sure that we can have different, a variety of products even on a local market. That was something about varieties. And the second was about the safety, food safety. Of course we have also considerations of food safety, not as much as you have, but there is, within the regulation, you will not find anything about that organic produce should have just 10% of the conventional or something like that. You will not find that. So it has the possibility to have equal amounts of fungicides or something like that. Although it should not be treated, so the crop cannot be treated with something, but you also have a drift of some products. So it's not specifically said that you have to have a lower residues.
In your lab work, have you been testing foods when you're comparing organic and
Yes.
organic for nutrient difference if you're also been testing for toxic?
No, for
difference?
toxic, no, that is not our topic. Because then you have to have another equipment and money is short as well.
Thank you.
So we have an HPLC, but it's more for, or we are looking more for the desirable nutrients, not for the non-desirable ones.
In the United States, the Union of Concerned Scientists, or not UCS, Consumers Union, has done some comparative testing of organic, non-organic for pesticide residues and did find significant differences for organic. So it does seem to hold up that expectation that you'll get fewer residues, which certainly drives a lot of consumer interest here in organic. It actually seems to bear out, especially for some crops like strawberries.
Yeah, we do have a journal published, I think, each week about residues and so on. And of course, that is coming from the official ministry. And it's pointing out about the different residues. And normally you have none or really less residues in organic products. But it depends where the food comes from. For instance, we have always difficulties with strawberries. And if the strawberries are coming from Turkey, we have more difficulties. So we do know already countries which are not so cannot so be trusted from the consumer's point of view.
I had a question too. It seems to me, and maybe this is an unfair question for a person who's working in a department of organic food quality and is a nutritionist by training, but it seems to me that the most compelling reason to buy and eat organic food is an environmental reason, that organic production methods are better environmentally. And if food quality is better, that's fine, but that's not the strongest reason for promoting organic agriculture. And I'm wondering what you think about that.
I think we are nearly the same age. Because that was the topic when we can say we have this group of 68 people or something like that, going organic, going for environment and social issues and so on. But nowadays, the modern consumer or the young consumer is looking more selfish for his or her own health. So the consumers have changed during time. Of course, we are still the heavy buyers, but nevertheless, the market is looking especially for young consumers as well. So convenience, more processing is now a big topic in the organic market. I would say I was a fundamentalist. I would say because I worked in whole food nutrition a long time. I did my PhD on dietary fiber and human nutrition and so on. So I would say we should have some basics in processing. We shouldn't go so far to have our Mars bar also in an organic version. And of course I do like to eat those tiny gummy bears. And we can buy it now as organic. Because then they are made out of real fruit juice and they are not using gelatin, they are using other thickeners and so on. But do I really need this? Yes, please.
Maybe a follow-up to Molly's question about different ways of thinking about organics. And first a comment and then a question. I mean, in addition to when I buy organic, and I'm thinking more about the environment, and also that includes the health of the people that have to pay for food as well, which is another important part of that. And again, if it happens to taste better, that's sort of a bonus. And so maybe one way to get at this would be to look at people's attitudes about organic cotton. Because a lot of people, I mean, I'm pretty sure my pants are organic right now. And I didn't buy, I mean, I'm not sure why I bought them, but certainly not because they taste better or they're better quality pants. I don't know, it's like, so, and my sense is that that the organic cotton market is growing as well. And maybe consumers would have different attitudes about that, which could be usefully compared or contrasted with attitudes on either side of the Atlantic about organic food. And it's-
Are your trousers sold as organic because of the residues or the pesticides
It's
being
just
sprayed?
It's
It's
a
just
process.
Yeah, just,
process. Because in Germany they are sold because of less residues and using other colors and so on. So we have another tradition to look at. So of course we do have also the sentence in our guidelines that organic food should support environment and social standards, and so we do have that. But our consumers, those new ones, are more selfish. And I always have, I have, just at the moment I have a PhD student coming from social sciences, and he is doing his PhD work on the topic of naturalness. The understanding of naturalness, how it has changed during the last years, and what is about naturalness in other countries, the understanding and so on. And I have always a hard time to discuss with him because he said, you are always claiming that this is a loss. See it as a modern thing. See it that something new is coming. It might not be named naturalness, but something coming. So of course I'm more the old-fashioned person and say, oh, we have, during those days, we were really going for the environment, and now everything has changed. Yes, please.
There's a kind of enduring question here about our relationship to food and what it means for food to be good. It's the good part, that's partly what your title is about, is the emotional or the attitudinal
Yes.
thing. That's the enduring thing, because 50 years ago, good food was made by machines, it was modern, it was highly technological, and it was processed. And now we're shifting into where the words, what stands for good changes. Everybody still wants to do good and eat good food. And now good, it's organic, is some kind of good, or it's local, is some kind of good, or things like that. But the enduring quality is the sort of emotional relation to food at all. Maybe we could say people have always wanted to eat good food. The meaning of good is what has changed.
Yes. I think the topic of food quality is also a topic not only of science but also of society. So the values in society will influence our approach to food quality. And the values of science should be presented in the regulations. And therefore I'm a little bit suspicious what comes now, because we have this virtual quality in there and whatever, integrity and something like that. But if it's now the European Institute for Standardization of Material and Methods, they just had a meeting about food authenticity, because that is also a topic being addressed. What is an authentic food? And organic claims to be authentic. So they asked this question, how can we measure authenticity? And if we cannot measure, then this word has to come out of the regulation. But these words say something to the people having founded the organic scene, let's say. They have an emotion behind these terms. So it's really urgent either to clarify those terms and to link them, for instance, to methodology, scientific methods, or to change this, to get that out of the regulation. But then I think we are losing our soul, something like that. Yes?
Well, in the US, we did pick up on this issue of authenticity. I think one common motto that's been promoted, which is from Michael Collins, is that you should eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. And I think when most people hear that as a simple motto, the real food means, it goes back to the two pictures you had early on, the girl with the apple on her head and the boy with the potato chip or whatever it was. It's real food is food that hasn't been processed. It's food that still looks like what grew, that you could hunt or gather, and or at least something close to that, maybe heat treated a little bit.
What about chicken soup?
You would be named also
So
being
what-
fundamental.
Yeah, but I'm wondering to what extent you could use that as a sort of working definition of authentic food, that it's that it hasn't been altered too much from that.
In Germany,
earlier stage.
98% of our food is altered. But somebody do not know that, for instance, frozen spinach is not the original spinach from the younger people. So asking them, the company Iglo did that. So they had several dishes named in the questionnaire, and they asked, are these dishes homemade or is it convenience food? And for instance, adding an egg to, let's say, a potato mashed, that was homemade. But the potato powder was, of course, already prepared. You just put the powder into milk and add, for instance, an egg to it. That was homemade. The spinach being frozen was homemade because you heated it up and put some additional things on it. The pizza, of course, that was convenience. So the understanding changed during the last year, what have been authentic food and what is now food, the real food. But you are completely right. From my point of view, we should have basic guidelines for basic food, let's call it that way. Yes, Tom.
So, Angelika, one of the things that I find really interesting about what we were talking about a little bit earlier is this idea of the changing concepts, what good food is. First off, the thing you said about the eggs is really interesting. When they developed cake mixes in the United States, they don't need an egg. You can make the cake without the egg. But they found out that housewives didn't think they were doing anything if they poured it out and just added water. So by cracking the egg, then it was a homemade cake. And this was in the 50s. This is like, Betty Crocker. This is the cake revolution in America. So this has a very older sort of tradition in terms of how people think about what it takes to create food, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm actually curious in the work that you've done on sort of food traditions, in the work that you've looked at, sort of historical, whether you find this term modern is so charged, this is the sort of modern food, and you were saying you're 68, you're from the generation 68, but there's also the generation of 27, and just how generationally maybe people communicate what good food is, or how people learn what good food is, how much time they spend at the table, those sorts of things, and also where those ruptures happen intergenerationally about the quality of food, because obviously I'm really interested in some of the ways in which people communicate about things that they really value in the food system locally. And I was wondering if you all touched on any of those sorts of social processes.
Yes, we did. And for instance, in Germany, egg is one example, but also we call it good butter. So instead of margarine added to some product, butter, it has a high value. So we do have some food that is ranked higher than others. And I pointed out the time Germans are taking for doing the preparation of food or sitting together. More and more young families and their children do not have hot meals during the day made at home. So they are getting the hot meals either at school or at their job facilities, and therefore the knowledge about how to prepare, for instance, fresh spinach isn't there anymore, or just in some parts, or being, so there was a very nice research done dealing with the topic. We have so many cooking lectures at TV. It's increasing rapidly, but does it mean that we do have more ability to prepare our food? No. We are looking that other person are doing that. We know that you can do that if you want, and sometimes it's just the job of a maid doing it on Sundays or something like that. So really a culture to prepare food, but not in our daily life. So especially housewives being at home, being asked what is very important for them by with preparing their food. They say, I have always to prepare each day and I do not know what to do and so on. So they are feeling more load on their shoulder than joy. And yeah, there are some studies around. We did some, but also colleagues of us did some.
I think we have one more question in the back here. There might actually be two, because I saw another hand up.
I had a question about sort of how you're making some of these comparisons in terms of comparing organic to non-organic. Are you making that comparison based on field-grown food, greenhouse-grown crops, or soilless culture?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they all, lumped together, or are they differentiated?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. Of course, if you are doing greenhouse crops analysis, then you will find clear differences. If you are going on soil, the differences are still there, but not so, you have not so dense groups together. And buying organic food from the market, you have to be sure that you are taking the same varieties. Then you may find also differences with the normal chemical methods. So it's really a process working in greenhouses, on soil, with neighborhood farms, for instance, what we are doing normally, and then buying from the store. And that is something we have to take into account when we see this headline in the Lancet saying there is no difference. Because you should then just focus on those studies which are really good from their experimental design, that they know what they have done, and not just wrapping organic, not knowing something about the variety. You can't compare different varieties. That was the topic of one of my slides there.
Molly, did you have a question too?
I sort of have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm wondering, let's say someone finds out like, okay, this organic red pepper has twice the amount of vitamin C.
Mhm.
Is that gonna drastically change if they buy organic and conventional? Because for me, when I eat, it's just like I have a combination of foods and they make me feel good, and it's not so much about, oh, well, this has a lot more minerals and this has a lot more vitamins, I'm gonna choose that. But I guess what I'm hearing you say is that that would make a big difference in Germany.
Mm-hmm. I do not know how your agency for nutrition, the FDA, is telling you something about the food quality. In our country, of course, we do have this pyramid, but also we do have the dietary allowances, the daily dietary allowances. And in former times, we, the nutritionists, were just looking on calculating, despite the fact where the vitamin C was coming from. So just to have 100 milligrams or whatever vitamin C. So going along with this thinking, of course, those people would say, yes, it makes a big difference if I'm getting the vitamin C either from a powder or if I'm getting it from a pepper, for instance. From my personal thinking, no, a real good mixture of food, and it should be also enjoyable to mix the food together, not to think, did I reach now my daily allowances for vitamin C or not? Of course you can buy some powder, but then it's the question of if the matrix matters or not, and that is something we are doing research on, because there are a lot of publications now showing that if you have an isolated substance, that it has not the same bioavailability and the same importance for your body than compared to the whole food. And that was, when I was young, that was my topic, whole food nutrition. And now I'm dealing with such regulations and stupid words.
Well, that's a good healthy note to end on.